If it has anything to do with the trans ideology and the TQ+, it becomes impervious to criticism. And that's something that I think is attractive to some people. They instantly become a protected class or a minority based off their sexual ID or their gender ID.
David.
Yep.
How's your America Fest going?
It's fun. It's my first time. I'm having a really good time. There's a lot of people, so I'm here with Gays Against Groomers. I'm a member for the Washington chapter and a content creator for them. You can find me on American David on Instagram and Twitter, like American David without the A, like America. Yeah. So, I joined the organization earlier this year, and the work is really important because now they're targeting children so explicitly.
Yep. Let me explain what I'm doing here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So I have this conversational method I like to use with people. It's called street epistemology. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Probably not, yeah. Okay. It's basically we focus on one claim.
Okay.
And then I ask for reasons for why you think that claim is true. And then I'll help ask questions about us wondering how to figure out if those reasons are good reasons for thinking that's true.
Okay, love that.
So I'd love to use the topic of gays against groomers, and we could maybe find one specific claim that we can then drill down into with reasons.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Gays Against Groomers, what is that about?
We are an organization that fights the indoctrination, sexualization, and medicalization of minors. We don't believe that trans children exist. We believe that gender nonconforming and gender dysphoric children exist, but it's not the same thing to say that they are trans for sure in their childhood. That is being very presumptuous and very dangerous because it leads to medicalization.
Gotcha. We could talk about that claim. Trans children do not exist.
Yes.
How confident are you about that, 0 to 100?
I'm about a 99. Yeah.
99?
I like I said, I believe that there are trans adults who thought that had gender dysphoria as children, but to presume that a child is trans, especially preventing them from reaching puberty by putting them on blockers. A lot of effeminate boys in their youth relate more with girls, and then they have an attraction to boys. And of course, your immediate thought is like, oh, maybe I was born in the wrong body. I'm attracted to boys. I don't want to be gay. I should have been a girl or something like that. But puberty is that mechanism that lets boys, let's stick to boys just for example, because I can speak from experience, that lets you realize it's like, oh, I just have an attraction to men. Maybe I'm just gay, instead of I was born in the wrong body. Let me be put on hormones and puberty blockers and eventually get surgery. So if you're delaying that puberty or blocking that puberty, besides all of the horrible health effects that happen from that, osteoporosis, slowing of the brain function, the scary part is that you're removing the mechanism by which young effeminate boys or masculine girls will discover that they're just same-sex attracted and don't need to be pushed down this pipeline of medicalization and indoctrination, frankly. It becomes their entire identity. And that's why we call it the gender industrial complex, because that's absolutely what it is. It's a booming and growing industry right now.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some negative consequences for thinking that it is possible trans children are even a thing.
Right.
Including all of that harmful stuff you just mentioned. So it's good to clarify that trans children don't exist in order to mitigate that bad stuff from happening.
Exactly.
Because if trans children did exist, maybe some of that stuff would be potentially okay to do.
I don't think if they're minors, I don't. Honestly, even if they say they can definitively prove, we don't let minors get tattoos, we don't let them smoke or drink, we don't let them make decisions that permanently affect their life and their health and their reproductive potential. And to assume that children can consent to changing their sex, what else can they not consent to? If they can already consent to changing their sex, what's to stop somebody to convince a child that they can consent to have sex with someone that's older? It's really, really a slippery slope. And frankly, it's predatory. And I believe there are doctors and parents with good intentions. They've just been misled. But it's too dangerous of a risk. So like you said, like how confident are you with that? Even if I'm not 100%, I want to err on the side of protecting the children versus erring on the side of protecting the feelings of trans activists or insecure adults.
Yep, protecting the physical health of children over the feelings of trans activists.
Exactly. Perfectly said, yeah.
Okay. And the trans children thing, I assume it's fair to say gay children exist, or gay minors exist.
I think it's fair to say that there are like well, see, the gay kids, what it would be was it'd be an effeminate child or a gender non-conforming child. Because there are still effeminate boys that end up growing up to be straight. They're just maybe more sensitive. They could be autistic. There's a lot of misdiagnosed autism that end up getting down the transition pipeline because there are a lot of crossover with that. Because if they say a girl has some sort of sensory issues and doesn't like to wear frilly things as a child and she prefers baggy clothes, that's happened with like Chloe Cole and other detransitioners where it's like, no, they just don't like the feeling of some clothes maybe, and guys' clothes are more comfortable anyway. But then some parents will see that as like their ticket to have this trans child and to be raising someone of a protected class. So I just think it's really dangerous. So yeah, even with the gay thing, I think it takes till puberty to really find out. And that's why it's so dangerous to block kids' puberty in the first place.
Yeah. So maybe we can make it very specific. Say gay 15-year-olds exist.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Does it make sense to say trans 15-year-old exists, or does that not make sense?
I don't know, because that goes a little bit deeper. The potential complications of a kid being gay are much, much less than the potential complications of a child being trans, right? Because you don't go down the line of medicalization and everything. That's why I say if your kid comes out as gay at 15, they're not going to be put on hormones or want to change everything about themselves and potentially get surgeries, right? So that's why we have to be a lot more cautious with what we're labeling children as, because clearly there is this huge boom to really target the children and confuse them further. Like, kids are insecure. Everybody's insecure. Everybody hates their body when they're younger. And now we're telling kids that are dealing with normal insecurities that they're born in the wrong body. Like, what happened to everyone's perfect the way they are? You know, it's kind of like a little bait and switch that's happened. Because if it has anything to do with the trans ideology and the TQ+, it becomes impervious to criticism. And that's something that I think is attractive to some people. They instantly become a protected class or a minority based off their sexual ID or their gender ID.
Gotcha. Cool. Want to keep going about this, David, or you want to wrap it up? Whatever you want to do.
Either way, I mean, if you want to ask me anything else, I can try to answer.
Sure. For policies around allowing surgery and hormones, because are there legitimate cases where it would be best if someone utilized those services?
As a minor specifically, are you asking?
Let's say even over 18.
I think
starting with that.
I think for generally, I don't know what to say for just fully general. I think adults should fairly be able to do what they want to do, you know, if it's not affecting other people. But with children specifically, like, even if you want them, you're convinced that they're trans, maybe they are trans and they want to live their life best as a trans person, blocking their puberty in their youth prevents them from being able to have successful surgeries in the future. Because if they don't develop properly, say if they want bottom surgery later, if their puberty was blocked, they don't develop enough as a boy to eventually turn that into whatever they want it to be through the bottom surgery. When we've had complications with that, there was the boy that died at 16 or 17 because they used rectal tissue to give him a vaginoplasty, and it ended up killing him through infection. So there are so many dangers that come with that. I think that it needs to be looked at a lot closer. It's all experimental. So that's why I can't even definitively say, like, yes, everyone should just be able to do whatever they want at 18. It's still so experimental, but for sure the hard line is the children and minors. They shouldn't be able to at all.
I'm hearing we should allow people to do whatever they want at 18, or should it be older?
I think it's tough to draw like a perfectly clear line, but the perfectly clear line that I'm willing to draw is that minors should not be anywhere near that kind of stuff, because it affects them and they're not even developed in their brain enough to know the longevity of the issues that they might be facing.
Okay, great. All right. Any other issues around this that we need to talk about?
I would just say that...
What is a bad reason that you've heard for not allowing minors to use hormones or surgery that people are using to try to justify that?
Like a bad reason that people are giving to not allow it?
If
people take it purely on some sort of hard ideological line, whether I agree with them or not, I don't think that's beneficial to the movement, because if you plant your flag too hard to say like, oh no, we're conservative or we're just Christian and we disagree with all of that, you're giving people a reason to argue against that, versus having it be focused on the patient or the child and their life and their protection and their health and well-being, instead of it being an ideological fight, having it be like, this is for the health and safety of that very child. We don't hate them. We don't deny their existence. We believe that, yes, there are gender dysphoric children, but the trans label is just too dangerous because it comes with a whole other host of issues. And I believe it's like 80 to 90% of children that are put on blockers and hormones end up getting surgery later on in their life, whether it's double mastectomies or vaginoplasties, whatever it may be. So it's really, really dangerous. We have to consider like the end goal or the end repercussions when we're starting to introduce these things to children and the youth. So I think the bad argument would be to like, oh, it's just all evil. Don't do any of it all, because that's going to be easily countered by other things. It's like not everyone's going to have the same belief system, but hopefully everyone still cares about the well-being of children, no matter what your belief or your faith or your politics are. So I think we should focus on it from a healthcare and safety point of view of the actual children suffering with it.
Okay, great. And I'm always interested in like the primary cause of the gender dysphoria for minors. Want to talk about that or wrap up?
That's a tough one because there could be so many things. I know they've studied that there could be a potential of abuse in the past or overbearing mothers, lack of fathers. There's a lot of potential things. I'm not well equipped to discuss that because it's very, very nuanced and complicated. I don't think anybody really knows yet.
Is there any reason you've heard that should be ruled out that you've heard? Like this is not a reason?
Something that's not a reason.
Yeah, a reason people give, but you, out of your research you've done, thinking, oh, people should not be using this reason to think.
I think it's a tough sell to say that all of them have just been abused in their past and that's why they are who they are. I think that's going to be a tough sell, and it may not be very productive, especially if it's coming from an antagonistic point of view. I think it needs to be coming from a compassionate point of view to try to get people to stay healthy and not go down paths that they're going to regret later on in their life when they're actually adults.
Yeah, it'd be great to have like a twin study of if this person grew up with gender dysphoria at around 15, 16, and the twin did, but they live somewhere else. I'd love to see if there's any social influences potentially.
The Reimer twins case is a really good case to look into. Dr. John Money did the Reimer twins experiment.
Oh, yeah?
It was a botched circumcision for David Reimer.
Oh,
he had a
yeah.
botched circumcision, and then they gave him a fake vaginoplasty as a child, and it ended up very, very bad. Both of them ended up dying. So one from suicide, one from drug overdose, and his research is still used all around. He was like the father of the gender ideology movement. So
yeah, is there anything special been happening in the past 5-10 years to increase the prevalence of this, or is it this just? What do you think?
I think a big tipping point was 2020 when kids were locked in their houses during the lockdowns and stuck online and going down these rabbit holes and spirals. I think another thing that affected in America specifically in also 2020 was the BLM George Floyd case, where a lot of young white kids, because they're seeing this very common with young white girls, is it wasn't very popular to be white, let's say, in America during that time. So you're giving students a way to become a minority in a protected class very easily by just saying, oh, I'm non-binary, or oh, I'm gender fluid, or today I feel this way. And then they've done studies where the girls, specifically the girls that identify with this in their youth, up to 80% don't actually change any of their behavior. So it's really more so about the label and being able to label yourself that. So then you become not just you become a minority. You're not just the majority anymore.
Maybe inserting my bias, it allows you to be in kind of an oppressed class rather than the privileged class.
Exactly that.
Exactly. Great, David.
All right, well, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
That was amazing. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Sure. Nice to meet you.